Hey everybody, welcome back to Challenge Coins Canada. Today we're going to talk about the history of challenge coins because everybody loves challenge coins, right? They're awesome. Everybody's got them, but what's the history behind them? Well, there's a lot of debates online regarding the history of challenge coins, but today we're going to look at some of the most credible sources and popular and see what we can learn. Also known as a military coin or unit coin or a commander's coin, challenge coins are small coins or medallions bearing an organization's insignia on them, or an emblem. It's carried by that organization's members. Traditionally, challenge coins were used to prove somebody's membership to the issuing organization. While this is still the case today, there are lots of collectors that hold different challenge coins for different organizations that they were never a part of. So let's start with the origin of the challenge coin. The origins of the challenge coin is very much debated to this day. There are a few different stories and timelines when it comes to the origin of the challenge coin. The first origin story takes us back to before World War I. Then we have some more origin stories that are post World War I and around the World War II era. We're going to look at different sides of these theories because we want to know how and why they were made. The pre-World War I theory. The origins of the challenge coin can be traced back to the Roman Empire. The Romans awarded challenge coins to recognize the achievements. If a Roman army excelled in battle, they would get their day's pay in coins, but also a separate bonus coin each. Some accounts state that these bonus coins were specifically minted and featured the marks of the legions from which they came from. As these were unique, some soldiers elected to collect them instead of spend them. This theory holds up because we have historical records of soldiers collecting the coins. The next theory, it puts challenge coins' origins around the 17th century in France. During that time period, the Huguenots were a group of French Protestants who refused to convert to Catholicism under King Louis XIV's rule. The Huguenots were persecuted for their religion, and many were forced to flee France. In order to avoid infiltration by state spies, the Huguenots began carrying their Miro communion coin. This coin would be presented when trying to gain entry into a Protestant church, which showed them an allegiance and permitted the entry. It's a great example of why a coin would be used to prove membership and aligns with the original meaning of a challenge coin. However, there is no documentation showing that this was a widespread practice among the Huguenots. Most of the information found on the internet about this is copied from one website that has no real evidence to back up the claims. So to me, this makes the Huguenot theory less believable than the next. Now, we come to the first documented instance of using challenge coins as a response of an actual challenge. This comes from World War I. In the early part of the 20th century, United States military aviation was under development, and inexperienced aviators sought training with European counterparts. Several American volunteers flying squadrons were formed to provide training opportunities for potential U.S. Army Air Service pilots. One squadron was stationed in France and was led by a wealthy lieutenant. That lieutenant had medallions struck in solid bronze and presented them to his unit. A young pilot wore it around his neck in a leather pouch. Shortly after, his plane was severely damaged by ground fire and he was forced to land behind enemy lines where he was immediately captured by a German patrol. The Germans then took all of his personal identification to deter an attempt at an escape, but for whatever reason, they decided to leave the leather pouch around his neck. The pilot managed to escape German custody, but was discovered by French forces in a nearby town. The French soldiers believed that the pilot was a saboteur, and with no way to prove his identity, he showed them the medallion, which contained his squadron's insignia, verifying him as an American pilot. This incident led to the creation of challenge coins as we know them today. After the war, this practice continued throughout the various branches of the United States Armed Forces and even to civilian organizations. I believe this story is a pretty good origin for the challenge coins due to the fact that there isn't only one origin story that can be supported. It's kind of a whole bunch of different stories coming together, and this one seems like it would be a good foundation piece for it. I should also note that the story isn't just limited to a challenge coin, but is the origin of the military challenge coins. That being said, there are multiple stories with varying degrees of credibility that do claim to be the origins of the challenge coins. One story attributes the origins of challenge coins to the Office of Strategic Services personnel who were developed to serve in Nazi France where they were deployed. These coins were a local coin used to help verify the person's identity. The coins would have specific aspects such as the type of coin, the date of coin, etc. These were to help prevent the infiltration of spies. Now this sounds like a good idea, but during the war there was an abundance of fake Allied currency in circulation. So it's very possible that somebody could have easily forged one of these coins in order to infiltrate the ranks. So the validity of this story, to me, is highly questionable. Another story claims that challenge coins can be traced to an American soldier who was scheduled to meet with the Philippine guerrillas during World War II. The soldier carried a Philippine solid silver coin that was stamped with his unit's insignia, and this was used to verify that he was the guerrillas' contact for their mission against the Japanese. It's a pretty cool story, but without any evidence or documentation, it's hard to support the validity of this. Yet another story states that the origins of the challenge coin can be traced back to the Vietnam War. According to this story, challenge coins started out as a way for infantrymen to prove that they were in combat in the country. The proof started with enemy bullets, then went to grenades, rockets, and unexploded ordnances. So eventually it seemed that this was ridiculous, so they decided to go with coin-sized items which had the unit's insignia stamped on them, and that would become their proof. There's just too many leaps and bounds for this story to make sense. Like, why would you go out of your way to stamp a coin when you could just bring bullets that are pretty much everywhere? Unfortunately, I think this theory is pretty low in terms of credibility. The last story claims the 10th Special Forces Group created the coins to identify their members, as many soldiers were claiming that they were part of the unit, but each member had a specific challenge coin which was produced to prove that they were a member. Now this story is more likely true as a challenge coin being used to prove membership, but this didn't start the challenge coin tradition. Like the Vietnam War theory, there are credible stories of challenge coins that predate the 10th Special Forces Group's creation by decades. Despite the many stories around the origins of the challenge coin, the oldest surviving challenge coin belongs to the 17th Infantry Regiment, which were minted by Colonel William Buffalo Bill Quinn during 1950 to 1958, to mark the end of the military tour. From here, the tradition of challenge coins then spread to other U.S. military units in all branches of service, and eventually to non-military units such as the United States Congress, which produced coins for their members to give to their constituents. Outside of the United States, the first appearance of modern challenge coins within the Canadian Armed Forces came from the Canadian Airborne Regiment in the 1970s. That being said, there are examples of challenge coins from the Second World War, specifically within the Royal Canadian Air Force. Back in World War II, the Royal Canadian Air Force 427th Squadron flew the Avro CF-105 torpedo bomber, which is a very respected symbol. And during that time, the Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer Film Studio, also known as the MGM, shared the line as a respective symbol. During a ceremony on May 27, 1943, a bronze statue of the line was presented to the squadron, as were MGM coins for the squadron members. These coins were used to grant free access to the very popular MGM theaters throughout Britain. There are many rabbit holes to dive down within the origins of challenge coins around the world, but needless to say, all of them stem from the same concept. A coin issued for completing a challenge, identified by specific insignia, and only given to members who earned said challenge coins. Now today, challenge coins are all over the world from every organization from police, to fire departments, to paramedics, military, and yes, even gift shops. I hope you learned something from this, and please don't forget to like the video if you've enjoyed it, comment if you have any challenge coins, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the challenge coin content that we have on here. Take care. No.